Sasha Georgiades, a former staffer for California Congresswoman Katie Porter, contracted COVID in July of 2022 while completing a Wounded Warrior Fellowship for her office. Georgiades felt body aches one day in the Congresswoman's office and tested positive the next day. She then continued the rest of her fellowship remotely, not before Representative Porter accused her of infecting her with COVID.
The staffer received texts from the Congresswoman following the event, blaming her for spreading COVID and leaving her kids without anyone to care for them. She also accused Georgiades of failing to follow office policies, which would require her to get tested the day she felt ill instead of the following day. Porter's office did not respond to Reason Magazine for comment. Joining us now to discuss is Sasha Georgiades, former Porter staffer and current consultant. Welcome to Rising.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So, Sasha, this is an interesting story. I mean, as a leftist myself, Katie Porter has been a shining star from a policy perspective. Her use of the whiteboard to very clearly explain various economic policies disproportionately that would help working class people have been a real boon to the left. When you look at the text messages to you, they do seem to reflect much less compassion than one might potentially expect from a politician who's kind of known from a policy perspective for a compassionate, humanistic approach. What do you make of this all?
What I make of it is that this is common in a lot of offices. This isn't just necessarily regulated to the left or the right. It just comes down to the treatment of staff in a lot of offices and the presentation of being compassionate and caring, but then turning around and not treating their staff in the same exact manner isn't really okay. You should be what you preach.
Yeah, so these texts, people should really take a look at them. Maybe we can put them up on screen if we have them. So I saw that a few days ago, I saw them making the rounds on social media. Their text between Katie Porter and you, where she's really unkind, saying that, it's your fault she got COVID, so this happened back in July, and I saw this going around on social media, and then I wanted to follow up with you to make sure this was true, because some people were saying as if this had just happened, and I looked and but wait, Representative Porter got COVID back in July. So then I touched base with you, and you kind of gave more context for what happened. You said that, you work out a lot, you exercise, you're very active, you started to feel, you had some soreness, but you didn't, that could have been typical of going to the gym, etc. You really did test the second you started to feel sick, and then you did everything right. So for her to, and she retaliated against you. She blamed you for giving her COVID, and she didn't exactly fire you, but she did not want to see you ever again. She didn't let you come to the office ever again until your fellowship ended. And it's a very blaming kind of message that I see would be very, very hurtful.
Yeah, especially after the amount of work that I had put in and just the amount of time that, all of her staffers put in to really push for her cause and push for this legislation. It was very hurtful, and it was very painful to see that she did use that Facebook Live 2 weeks later after she had basically told me I could not come back. And, the common thing in a lot of Wounded Warrior Fellowships is basically either assistance, to find a position in another office after you leave, or generally to offer a position within the office prior to you leaving. But, it was just hurtful to think that it's not just me that experiences this. This is just the tip of the iceberg for a lot of people in a lot of different offices.
And also to do the whole, you gave me COVID,
yeah,
who knows? She could have got it from somewhere else. She could have given it to you. It doesn't. You can show symptoms before you. It's all to still be in that mindset, or to have a major political figure still in that mindset is alarming to me.
Well, let's read these texts, because unlike a lot of people in the situation, Sasha, you were very kind of apologetic and conciliatory and humble in your interactions with Representative Porter. So you say to her, "I'm terribly sorry. You're right. I should have done better. Just because I felt okay in the moment doesn't mean that I was." She replies, "Sasha, I cannot allow you back in the office given your failure to follow office policies. Cody will be in touch about having your personal effects shipped and delivered to your home, and will lay out your remote work schedule and possibilities. You again say that you understand that that you weren't in your right mind because it's not, you say it's not a lack of excuse, it's not an excuse rather, but that you had found out that your friend from the Navy had been murdered and your head was not in the right mind space. And in response to that, there wasn't really an acknowledgement of your personal situation. She responds, well, you gave me COVID. In 25 months, it took you not following the rules to get me sick. My children have nobody to care for them. And again, I understand the frustration of getting COVID and having to deal with childcare, but the kind of lack of parallel empathy shown in your direction as you've made this kind of disclosure about your own personal loss, that's what's most jarring to me.
Yeah, and I think to me that was also the most jarring because within the 2 years I had been in her office, I had lost 3 shipmates. And by that point, that was the third one. And it is really hard to serve with individuals and then lose them, no matter if you were best friends or not best friends. So I was jarred by the lack of empathy, especially because, you know, the month before was Memorial Day and we had gone to a Memorial Day event. So it really did take me back because I didn't expect that.
Yeah, well, look, this is hard because, like I said, I think Katie Porter does great work. You probably agree, and that's why you chose to work for her. And as someone who, you know, worked for the Bernie campaign, and certainly there were moments, as in any campaign and in any workplace, that a person could complain about, I felt an enormous amount of pressure to kind of, a lot of us felt an enormous amount of pressure just to keep your head down for the cause, as it were. What we were there for and fighting for was bigger than any kind of regular routine office place melodrama or whatever happens. So I imagine this was a difficult choice for you to come out and disclose this. Can you tell us about that decision making?
Yeah, it wasn't easy because I did learn a lot in her office, and I don't want to discredit any legislation that she's done because she's done a lot of great work. But what it came down to is I always tell people I'm an advocate. I've been an advocate my whole life, advocating for different things from veterans to active duty to mental health, you know, within that, and sexual trauma within that. But with this decision, if you follow Dear White staffers, you'll see just not only my posts, but the endless amounts of posts from different offices coming forward and just saying the treatment that they have and the way that they're underpaid and overworked. And we are just kind of told to put our head down for the cause, and you don't want to discredit anybody. But if these are our elected officials and they're in places of power, they also need to be held accountable as well.
Well, Sasha, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, of course, for your service.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
We'll have more Rising right after this.